Hello, Reformed Mythologist Nate Morgan-Locke here with another episode of Behold the Comments, where we go through the comments underneath Reformed Mythologist videos over the last few weeks. I am joined, as ever, by Eleanor of Lothlorien.
Hello.
We've got quite a lot to get through because we haven't had one of these episodes for a while. The first video that we're going to take a look at is the latest video that we released on the Reformed Mythologist channel, and it's called What Pop Culture Should Christians Avoid?
And it features your list of Taylor Swift songs that are Christian approved.
That's right, although I'm told there might have been some sort of glitch or technical issue which meant
there.
People didn't pick that up. Sorry if that upset you at all. Anyway, the three people, or the three faces that we used on the thumbnail for that video were, in order, Taylor Swift, Buzz Lightyear, and Vessel from Sleep Token. What do you think people are most likely to be talking about in the comments of those three pop cultural artifacts?
Well, I'm immediately drawn to Taylor Swift, but
yeah.
I have a feeling that she was not the most talked about.
She wasn't. And actually, neither was Sleep Token, partly because I think people talked about Sleep Token on other videos that we've done.
Yeah.
But then right there in the middle is Buzz Lightyear. And we had a comment on that because I referenced the fact that I think Toy Story 4 is hellish and should not be consumed. First three Toy Story films, absolutely brilliant, but Toy Story 4 is of the devil. And then at Cam Gilry said, lol, I haven't seen Toy Story 4. I'm curious now. What was so bad about it?
He's not just curious, Nate. He's really curious.
He's really curious. And then there were two replies, one of which came from at Daniel Valencia 9218, who said, I've only seen it once and it was a while ago. So someone please correct me if I'm not recalling things accurately. I just remember Woody getting repeatedly emasculated. The movie also took a complete 180 from the themes of the original trilogy, which you could say is a metaphor for parenting. Woody abandons his girl owner and all of his friends to be his true, authentic self with Bo Peep.
Then Simeon Eves 5940 said, so it's new age garbage like every other modern movie. Shame that.
I think it's probably worth saying that when we put those three different images or three different faces on the thumbnail of that particular video, it's probably Sleep Token is the one that Christians are going to be like, I don't think I'm going to watch that. That looks kind of demonic. That looks kind of dark and unsettling and not the sort of thing that I want to be engaging with. And then with the Taylor Swift thing, I think people are open to the idea that there's a risk there.
Yeah, there have been things that have put some Christians off listening to her music.
Yeah, but also because she's got the different eras, it's as though she's presenting herself in one particular way in each different era. And so the Reputation era being a bit more of a kind of like angry and sort of dark and spiteful and kind of upset Taylor, as opposed to the kind of fearless 1989, much more poppy, cheerful kind of Taylor. And then her Jane Eyre. Still using that gag. I think people will be wary, very, very wary. Christians are going to be really wary of Sleep Token. People are surprised that Christians actually enjoy Sleep Token. And then people are going to be thinking, what are you going to do with Taylor Swift? And then when it comes to something like Toy Story 4, because those first three films were so good, they had this grasp on us. We cared about these characters. We were invested in the story. We thought this was safe. And then Toy Story 4 came along and just kind of undercut the whole thing and was, as Daniel Valencia says, a complete 180 from the themes of the original trilogy.
You're gonna, for once, be very pleased that I haven't seen something. I have not seen Toy Story 4.
I'm delighted. I'm very pleased indeed. I'm going to talk more about Toy Story 4 because I was thinking about this. When I get into a lot of franchises or bands or genres or whatever it is, I feel like I'm a bit of a newbie who doesn't really understand the lore, and I'm trying to learn the lore so that I can kind of engage with it in an interesting way, hopefully. Whereas when it comes to Toy Story, I feel like that's the one I probably know most natively. Like that. I'm very conscious of how little I know about like Sleep Token, had to learn the law from the comments, or, I know quite a bit of Taylor Swift, but when you go on the Invisible String podcast, you're like, no, I don't know most Taylor Swift stuff. Whereas Toy Story, those films and the Toy Story shorts, I know those characters pretty well.
Yeah.
And so that was why I was so affected by Toy Story 4. Which was like 11 years ago. Was it 11
really
years ago?
that long ago?
No, it wasn't. 2017, 9 years ago. It was a long time ago. Still not over it. And there are rumours about a Toy Story 5.
Toy Story 4 is 2019.
19?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm only talking about it 6 years after the event.
You're basically on topic.
Whoa. Finger on the pulse right here on the Reformed Mythologist.
So why don't we take it all the way back to the poetry debate we need to revisit.
Mm-hmm.
So when we posted this video, you were away.
I was.
I took over the channel for a short moment and replied to some comments.
Mutiny! Mutiny! No! Mutiny! Mutiny!
So we had some good responses to that video. A lot of people telling us what they had memorized. Chains Were Apple said, I always look forward to your videos. This was relevant for me as I'm homeschooling my children. After watching your funny rant video, we all memorized the books of the Bible. Thank you. I hearted that and said, I love that you memorized the books of the Bible after the funny rant video. I was a student at Speak Life last year and Nate got me to memorize the books of the Bible as part of it. I love that I now have that knowledge, and I hope it's a blessing to you too.
It is such a weird thing that Christians just don't know the books of the Bible in order.
Yeah.
That is, you sort of think, there's only 66 of them.
I remember...
People learn way more Pokemon.
Who's that Pokemon?
I remember when you first brought it up, we were all like, no, it's not that weird that no one knows it. And we tried to argue with you and then slowly came round.
Well, so the weirdest thing I used to do when I was a youth pastor, ex-youth pastor speaking, that could go on a YouTube title, couldn't it? Ex-youth pastor reacts. But anyway, I was doing some youth ministry and I used to have this deal with the young people I was in the youth group with. And I would say, if you memorize all 66 books of the Bible in order, I will give you a £5 note. You get a £5 for learning this, right? Not just some sweets, £5 worth of sweets if you want to buy sweets with it. But here's the condition. If at any point in the rest of our lives, I come up to you and I say, can you name all the books of the Bible in order? And you can't do it, you have to give me the £5 back.
I mean, £5 isn't worth that much these days.
Well, it's not, but it does mean that there are various pockets of the UK that I can go to if I'm a bit short of cash. I call someone up and say, Genesis, Exodus, do go on. But there we go. Yes, memorizing things. It's a good thing to do.
Friend of the show, Scotty Brewer, said, if you would have your mind furnished with beauty, you are obligated to memorize poetry. I haven't seen this video before, but I knew from the outset that Peter Hutchins would be the one
Hitchens. Did he say Hutchins?
Yeah, Scotty got it
come
wrong.
On.
Would be the one to defend the merits of poetry for its own sake. And then I replied, indeed, despite media consumption is optional being our catchphrase, I think we're accidentally building up a list of things that we are in fact obligated to do.
Mm-hmm. Also, the title to that video says, the poetry debate we need to revisit. So, yeah. This media consumption is optional catchphrases. It's not worth the pixels it's typed on.
Jeffrey Brannan 9465, who used a quote from Macbeth, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and said, not poetry and poorly remembered, but the emotions ring true, and how often it has held me back from seeking too much glory. It all fades so quickly and then is forgotten forever. I'm not the main character, and I will destroy myself and everyone around me if I seek to make myself become it. And I said, I love Macbeth. That monologue has always been something I've wanted to learn off by heart. Sometimes life can indeed feel like that. In those moments, I find it so encouraging to think of myself as an NPC in God's great story with Jesus Christ as the hero, and the victory has already been written.
Which actually links to some other stuff we've been talking about, which isn't out yet on the channel, and will sort of appear at various different points, but talking about main character syndrome and being an NPC and all of that kind of stuff. So that's quite cool that Jeffrey brought that up.
Yeah. So, 2 videos that we posted recently, but we're not going to do the comments from, are the hidden Christian message in sleep tokens, even in Arcadia, and learning sleep token lore from the comments. So, technically, we've already covered the comments from that first one. They did quite well.
They did, yeah, the first one. I think it is a bit weird how, sleep token, which literally I never heard of, and then that ends up being one of the most popular videos on the channel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about teenagers can't read anymore. This is based on a tweet that went viral, and it argued, I'll let Ewan Thompson explain what the video was about. I enjoyed listening to Nate explain Cairo's tweet about how literary agent told him that teens can't read third-person omniscient anymore. We're adding layers and layers of layers on the frame narrative of this tweet.
It's Inception.
It is. But then Micah and Eleanor Deegan, friend of the show, he said, I wonder if the meme is also an integral part of the storytelling. In an ironic twist, there's no way the tweet would land with anywhere near the same gravity if this wasn't a story with pictures. To which I said, good point, because it is a good point that sometimes we're using images to tell the story, and the combination of the image and the story, or the image and the word, is doing quite a lot of work.
Because we believe show don't tell in video.
Yeah.
And Cairo didn't actually really give us his opinion in his text.
Right.
But I think we could tell his opinion from the image.
We inferred the opinion from the image. Yes, I think that's right. There is an absolutely brilliant introduction to a absolutely brilliant children's book that is called The Griffin and the Minor Canon. And it's illustrated by Where the Wild Things Are, author and illustrator Maurice Sendak. So the images are so cool in this book. What's really cool in that book is that Maurice Sendak has written this like little introduction to what he was thinking about when he was trying to draw the illustrations for the story. And so Micah's point about what's the relationship between the word and the image. And Sendak goes into a really brilliant thing there where he says, I didn't want to say in the image what the words already said. I was trying to bring something else out of it so that it was adding value rather than literally just like, here's the thing, bang. So if you can get hold of a copy of that book, which is actually quite tricky, it's not very well known, but it is so good. In fact, we should make a video about that book. The Griffin and the Minor Canon, Clergyman as Hero, people. And mythical creature, great narrative twist, brilliant storytelling. What have you just spotted?
To buy it hardcover on Amazon, it costs £107.
£107, each one of them absolutely worth it. It is totally worth it. It's probably in my top 5 favourite books. I didn't think we were going to talk about The Griffin and the Minor Canon today, but here we are. Get hold of a copy of it. If you've actually read it and you know what we're talking about, please do comment below because, I'd love to know more people have enjoyed that excellent children's story. Okay, let's move on to another video, and this one is called
What Taylor Swift Gets Wrong About Jane Eyre. You heard it here first, people. Taylor Swift is wrong.
She got something wrong. In fact, we originally called that video What Taylor Swift Fans Get Wrong About Jane Eyre. And then to try and spice it up a little bit, we made it a bit more direct. It doesn't done massively well as a video, but it was enjoyed by someone called @EmilyMaxon, who said, "Hoo boy, did the YouTube algorithm get me with this recommendation, Mr. Nate Morganlock? Jane Eyre is my most favourite book in the whole world. The central theme of the transforming love of Christ articulated so delicately and yet so inescapably, it is everything I want to experience as a reader and everything I want to emulate as a writer." Open brackets, humanly speaking, close brackets. And I just released a 13-episode podcast series on Taylor Swift's discography, replete with musical and lyrical analysis, red stringboard and Easter egg baskets. But this connection I did not make. Bless you, sir. You are doing the Lord's work, even if you are not a missionary in India. Lovely little gag at the end there. We're glad we could help, Emily Maxon. Welcome to the channel. And yes, I'm not sure how much more Jane Eyre content we're going to do, but it's a quality book. Is it up there with The Griffin and the Minor Canon? It might be. It might be that good.
It's probably in my top 5 or top 10.
Top 5. We should do a top 5 books thing.
As long as I don't have to put them in order.
Yeah, that could get tricky. It could get tricky. Then our dear friends from the Invisible String podcast.
They said, totally agree. If we take Taylor's Easter eggs as gospel, then we definitely need to acknowledge Bronte's note telling us literally to look for the Christian themes. Also, I think you can see a glaring example of Taylor's adherence to a socially constructed morality instead of God's law in Guilty as Sin. Someone told me there's no such thing as bad thoughts. This someone must have a lot of authority to make such a claim.
Boom. That's your presuppositional apologetics right there from those lovely Reformed ladies of South Carolina.
And if you want more of that relating to Taylor Swift's lyrics, go to whatever podcast platform you get your podcasts on and listen to Invisible String podcast.
And then, friend of the show at Sky or Rich Egg said, I think I did not really understand the appeal of Taylor Swift until the needle drop of Love Story in the episode Forks in the show The Bear. Those moments of redemption and catharsis when it occurs help me understand what millions of people knew about Taylor's music. I listened to and really enjoyed her albums Folklore and Evermore since then because I am a sucker for indie folk, even when it's still undeniably poppy. As this is really about Jane Eyre, I will mention that I really enjoyed the line from the book, Am I hideous, Jane? Very, sir. You always were, you know. It occurs at the end of the novel when Jane has returned to Mr. Rochester in his ruined state, and it's playful banter done to try and kick Rochester out of his depression. However, I think it also speaks to a deeper Christian truth about Rochester and us all as fallen humans. Yeah, that's a great point. 2 great points. And then, now I think this is an interesting question that comes off the back of what I commented to Sky Rich Egg, which is, what's the best cover version that you know? Now, this can get tricky. Have you got one already?
I've got one already.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll save that. Okay, we're going to get to that. Because there are certain songs from earlier decades which like everyone kind of had a go at recording that kind of song. But what we're really thinking about is like something that is undeniably, this was this person's song and everyone kind of knew it was their song, and then someone else took that song and then did something else with it. Go.
Mine might be more of the former than the
Okay.
latter, but it's Elvis Presley, Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
What, you don't like the 21 Pilots version with the ukuleles? Wise men say. Yeah. No, the Elvis version is pretty good.
Yeah. I really enjoyed listening to Elvis' greatest hits while I was at university for some reason.
That is so fun. I didn't have you down as an Elvis fan.
Yeah, I think if I was a teenager in the 50s, I'd
Yeah.
have been a big Elvis fan.
That is so interesting. I feel like Elvis is just sort of completely ignored now. Like no one cares about Elvis anymore.
My housemate used to get really annoyed at me
Okay.
for how much I played his songs.
It's in Lilo and Stitch,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
love Lilo and Stitch for the Elvis music.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I can't say that I know his discography well.
Mhm.
I was definitely just a greatest hits listener.
Yeah. So we once did a road trip across the states, and we were planning originally to go to Memphis, and maybe go to Graceland, and then I realised that we were also going to be going through Dyess, Arkansas, which is where Johnny Cash grew up. And I thought, if we're going to make a choice here about where we're going to stop, I'm more Johnny Cash than Elvis Presley. So then we went to Johnny Cash's Boyhood Home. So yeah, I would put like Johnny Cash is well above Elvis for me. But
my
Elvis is
family
pretty
also
solid.
did a trip across the US, and we did go to Graceland and go around. And it was actually really interesting. I think we expected it to be a bit weird and kind of boring, but we all really enjoyed it and were really surprised by how interesting we found learning a bit more about Elvis was.
The other thing about Elvis is that my favourite football team is Port Vale FC up in the Potteries, and the theme song that they sing before all the games is The Wonder of You, which is a great Elvis song. When no one else can understand me, oh, when everything I do is wrong. Oh, you give me love and understanding. You give me hope to carry on. It might be strength. But anyway, you'll never know the reason why I love you like I do. That's the wonder of you. Anyway. And we got promoted last season, so we're going to be in League One starting in August. Right, let's land this plane. Where are we going to land it?
But would you say that your favourite covers are Ryan Adams' 1989 of Taylor Swift, or do you have?
That's why we started talking about it.
We didn't actually get to that.
So partly because the Ryan Adams cover of the whole of 1989 made me see that Taylor had put things into the songs that I hadn't realised were there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's really, really cool. Particularly How You Get the Girl. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'd really listened to that song properly until I heard the Ryan Adams version. I was like, that's really cool. Probably the cover version I've listened to most is Disturbed, doing Sound of Silence. Have you ever heard that?
No, I don't think I've heard that version of Sound of Silence.
No, the guy's voice is just insane.
I like Simon and Garfunkel, so
yeah. I suppose the other one you could have is All Along the Watchtower.
I did just think of Aurora doing Half the World Away, which is an Oasis song.
I know it's an Oasis. It used to be on The Royal Family. It was the theme song for the BBC sitcom, 90s sitcom, The Royal Family. Or was it early 2000s? Anyway, I don't think I've heard the Aurora one.
It was on John Lewis Christmas advert.
Oh,
the one with the old man.
Because that was the whole John Lewis Christmas advert thing for a while, wasn't it? You play the different...
Yeah.
And the other thing is the BBC Live Lounge. That's where a lot of people do a lot of their covers. Yeah. But yeah, what's your favourite cover song? Let us know in the comments. So, Eleanor, what you been watching?
We should have a jingle for that.
We should.
So I think the best thing for me to talk about is that I have over 300 hours played on the game Baldur's Gate 3. And I've
300 hours.
Finally
since we last
finished
spoke?
it. No.
Okay.
Since I started playing it.
Okay.
I had a couple of restarts, so that's not just all one game. But I have now finally done one playthrough from start to finish. And I'm going to be honest, Nate, I was nearing the end last week and I genuinely cried myself to sleep one night because of the emotional trauma I went through with that game.
You mean you cried? What the tears were? I'm sad it's finishing.
No,
or I'm so frustrated I can't get through this game.
Neither of those things. The tears were the story making me make a choice that I did not want to make.
Oh wow! Okay. Proper good tears.
Yeah.
The good kind of powerful storytelling tears. What's so powerful about it?
A lot of people have said that Baldur's Gate 3 is a glorified dating sim. So you kind of romance a character and you can get quite attached to a character.
Okay.
And then the end kind of makes you choose between sacrificing yourself and sacrificing other people.
Okay.
And I think I'd kind of had this vision of my game having this happily ever after for my character and their love interest and all of their friends and things like that. And then when I had this choice presented with me, I was like, it's still in reach. I could still have that ending for my character, but I can't bring myself to make that choice. I have to make the sacrificial choice and I have to say goodbye to that ending that I really wanted for my character.
Oh, but so you actually cried?
I cried. I cried so much.
Oh. Wow, because you had to make the decision, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing about video games, because you're so involved. It's not just watching a TV show and like, oh, I like that character, I want them to get together.
Yeah, especially because I play a paladin who has an oath and I feel like has to do the right thing.
Right.
And also just morally, I want to do the right thing as well. I just had to do the right thing and sacrifice, and it was not fun.
Oh, you're a bit like Jane Eyre.
Yeah, it did feel a bit like the Jane Eyre of like, I have to do the right thing here and it's breaking my heart to have to do the right thing.
Dear me. Wow, I was not as aware of the deep emotional, moral and ethical choices having to be made whilst playing a video game.
But Nate, what you been watching?
I've been watching quite a lot because it's been quite a while. Last night I watched Shawshank Redemption with my son for the first time, and he really enjoyed it. I was kind of watching him at various points like, oh, what's he going to think of that? Or lots of bad language and obviously scenes of a pretty horrific nature. But just in terms of the brilliance of Frank Darabont's directing, and Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman are obviously incredible and based on a Stephen King story. So brilliant. What else did we watch? We actually all watched and sort of fell asleep during and then woke up again. Toy Story 3 on Sunday, which was, I think, was that Father's Day?
Yes.
So that was great. Mean Girls, watched that recently, the original Tina Fey film from like 2004. 4, yeah, that's probably right. Still going through the cowboy Kevin Costner TV show Yellowstone.
Still admiring the coats.
Still enjoying the coats and the scenery and the horse riding. Still like, what is happening with these storylines? And the other things, I started watching, only watched like 2 episodes of it, but Clarkson's Farm. Had never watched it before. Obviously knew loads about Clarkson from watching Top Gear in 90s and early 2000s. But then it was quite funny because this was the first time my kids had actually seen Jeremy Clarkson doing TV, and just that whole kind of, and then I decided to buy a tractor, the biggest tractor in the world. And it was like just seeing them kind of watch as this story just unfolded, and it was very funny. So we've got quite a bit of that to get through, but it does feel like a show that we should have waited until the autumn. I don't really want to be watching a show like really regularly during the summer. So,
but also I feel like farming and harvesting and that kind of stuff is an autumnal vibe.
Yeah, I feel like we should pause it, not watch any of it, and then start again, because I think they're in season 4 now or something. Right, shall we draw stumps there?
Yep.
I think we'll call this little meeting to an end. Please do remember that media consumption is optional. You are under no obligation to watch or read or play or listen to any of the stuff that we've mentioned in this episode of the Reformed Mythologist. Behold the comments. I've been Reformed Mythologist Nate Morganlock. She's been Eleanor of Lothlorien. We're glad you were here.